Okay, we're going to work on solving some equations that have multiple variables. So we want to solve the distance formula for t and then use it to find the amount of time it takes to travel 228 miles at a rate of 48 miles per hour. So we're solving for t, which means r and t are being multiplied together. To get t by itself, we need to divide both sides by r. That way we just get 1t. So t equals d over r. Now, we know we're traveling 228 miles for our distance at a rate of 48 miles per hour. So if I plug those in, my time equals my distance divided by my rate. And then a little quick division here because we're practicing without a calculator. Let's see, it seems like maybe about 4 times. 48 would get you 228 since it's almost 50. Yeah. And then 36 left. Oh, won't go in anymore, so we can just reduce 36 over 48 to 3 over 4. And our time is 4 3/4 hours. We could have just plugged 48 and 228 into the original equation for our rate and our distance and solved it, but it would be handy if we were going to do this calculation multiple times to solve your equation for your time first. This should look kind of familiar because it's a formula for surface area of a cylinder. We're solving for h, so our term containing h is the 2 pi rh. Let's isolate it on one side of our equation, so subtract 2 pi r squared because that'll get you 0, and you'll just have a minus 2 pi r squared is going to equal your 2 pi rh. And then if you think about getting h by itself, 2 pi and r are all being multiplied by h, so if I just want to get 1h, if I divide by 2 pi r, those will divide out to 1. And I need to do it to both sides of my equation. So I'll have a minus 2 pi r squared, all divided by 2 pi r equals h. And I could just leave it like that, or if you want to divide both individual terms by 2 pi r, you could, which would give you a over 2 pi r minus 2 pi r squared over 2 pi r. And then you'd really probably want to reduce that second fraction because 2 and pi divide out to 1, and r squared over r is just r. You could just stop up above as well. Either's fine. Now this one is area of a trapezoid. We're still solving for h. It's a little bit tempting to go ahead and multiply your 1/2 h in because you guys are used to distributing stuff. If you try it, it's not actually what you're going to want to do because that gives you your variable you're solving for in 2 terms instead of 1, which is kind of going backwards from what we want. So what I'm going to do is let's first divide by 1/2, which if you divide by 1/2, that's the same thing as multiplying by 2 over 1, and multiplying by your reciprocal is usually going to make these easier. So if you do that, 1/2 divided by 1/2, or times 2, just gives you 1h. And then h is being multiplied by that entire quantity, b sub 1 plus b sub 2. So let's divide by that entire quantity. If you do that to both sides of your equation, you'll just have h by itself equals 2a over b sub 1 plus b sub 2. Alright, so if I was solving this, I'd get the term that has my d variable by itself by subtracting abc from both sides. And that'll leave you with 6/7 times d equals 4 minus abc. And then you could do it in 2 steps or 1 step. You're dividing by 7, so you could multiply both sides by 7, which would just give you 6d equals, you'd have to take 7 times both terms, or remember to put it in parentheses. So you'll end up with 28 minus 7 abc. And that's what 6 times d is equal to. So you'd also have to divide both sides by 6, which you'd have to divide everything on both sides by 6. So you could write it as a fraction all over 6, or if you wanted to split it up into 2 separate terms and divide them individually by 6, you could. So 28 over 6 minus 7 abc over 6. 28 over 6 you could reduce, divide both of them by 2, and turn it into 14 over 3. Either of those is fine. Alright, word problem, everybody's favorite. So you can estimate the diameter of a tree by measuring its circumference. So we want to find the diameter of an oak that has a circumference of 132 inches. So from your geometry days, you know circumference of a circle is 2 times pi times r. So here's my circumference of my tree trunk going around the outside. And then 2 pi times my radius gives me my circumference. We're actually looking for the diameter, which is all the way across instead of just halfway, which we'll deal with that later. So I could solve this for r by dividing both sides by 2 pi. Now, if you divide by 2 pi, you need to be really careful if you're punching this in your calculator that you put parentheses around the 2 pi or divide by 2 and then divide by pi, because you need it to divide by both of them, depending on your calculator, but you should get 21.01 for your radius. And remember, we want the diameter, so I could double my radius, and that would give me my diameter is approximately 42.02 inches.